Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are jumping into a stack of sources that focuses entirely on internal control. We're not really here for gentle reflection. We are synthesizing a set of powerful, actionable reminders, things designed to help you, quickly reframe stress and shift your mindset.
Yeah, you could think of this deep dive as a shortcut, really, a shortcut to remembering your own strength. We've pulled together 7 high-impact phrases, mental adjustments that can act as these immediate psychological pivots.
Pivots for what, exactly?
For setting boundaries, for acknowledging when you're just genuinely exhausted, and for focusing your attention back on what actually matters.
I like that. Our mission here is to challenge that default assumption, the one, that things are happening to you.
Instead of recognizing your own agency.
Exactly. And that core idea is just perfectly captured by the Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist Alice Walker. She wrote, "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any."
And we're here to basically remind you that you absolutely have that power. We're just going to show you where to find it. We're focusing intensely on the levers that are actually within your control.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this with the first reminder, which feels foundational. It's foundational to taking back that control. It hits right at the heart of where we often confuse being a decent human with being a total martyr.
It's the essential equation, isn't it, for setting healthy priorities? Not just for other people, but for your own well-being.
So the phrase is, and I love how blunt this is, you can be a kind person with a really good heart and still tell people to F off when you need to.
It's called boundaries.
Right. It's called boundaries. And I think the most common mistake we make is believing that kindness requires, what? Unlimited accessibility.
That is the classic human doormat trick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The source material really emphasizes that this mistake, it comes from misdefining what a boundary even is.
How so?
Well, we think of boundaries as this big confrontation we have to have with others. But the crucial insight here is that boundaries are fundamentally what you say and what you commit to yourself.
Oh, so it's an internal commitment first.
Yeah.
I need to start saying no to extra projects after 5 p.m., or maybe I am not answering work texts on a Saturday.
Precisely. If you find yourself consistently overwhelmed or miserable or, resentful, that's your internal system screaming at you that your kindness is being outsourced at the expense of your own needs.
So setting a boundary, it's an act of self-respect.
It is. It's an act of self-respect, not an act of meanness towards someone else.
Okay, but what about the fallout? I think a lot of listeners avoid boundaries because they dread the disappointment or even worse, the guilt trip from other people. How does this reminder help you manage that external resistance when you finally do say no?
Well, the strength of the reminder is that it separates your action setting the boundary from the other person's reaction, their disappointment. As the source notes, you get to choose what's important. And if someone else's emergency becomes your chronic problem, you have to recognize that their reaction is their emotional response. You don't have to internalize it. Your priority is stopping your own cycle of collapse.
That distinction is so powerful. My action versus their reaction. Other people's emergencies are not my priority.
Right.
Okay, let's move to the second reminder. This one really attacks that self-criticism cycle that starts when you are just completely, utterly depleted. The phrase is, you're not lazy, you only have a certain amount of energy right now, and you're using it all to survive.
This is so critical, because when our resources are low, that internal voice, it almost universally defaults to criticism. It's always, you're behind, you should be doing more, you're lazy.
And that constant internal beatdown, it feels like the truth.
Yeah.
But the source material anchors this in biology.
It does. And to ground this, the sources point us toward the research of Dr. Aditi Nurukar, a Harvard MD, and a world-renowned stress expert.
Okay, so what does her work tell us? What's actually happening in our brains when we feel totally incapable of being productive?
Dr. Nurukar's research shows that stress isn't just a feeling. It's a physiological state that actively turns up the volume on all negative thoughts. When stress is chronic, it essentially hijacks the higher functioning parts of your brain.
Hijacks it.
It shifts you squarely into survival mode.
Which is what? Basically a reactive mode?
Exactly. And when you are in that biological survival mode, your brain is absolutely not optimized for creativity or for deep work or for tackling a long to-do list.
It's not designed for that.
No. It's designed only to process immediate threats and conserve energy. And this leads to all those common behaviors like procrastination, comparison, doom scrolling.
All of which feel like laziness.
But they're survival mode activities, not laziness.
So If we're operating in that reactive mode, we're not suffering from some kind of moral failure. We're just exhausted because too much has been coming at us. But how does a person distinguish then between being genuinely depleted and, maybe just procrastinating on a task you don't like?
That's a great question because, yeah, sometimes we are just dragging our feet. But the distinction is felt internally. If you are mentally beating yourself up for not doing something, yet you physically cannot initiate the task, that's usually depletion. If you have any energy left for self-judgment, that energy is probably being used just keeping your head above water.
And that just brings us perfectly to the Jim Quick quote the source has highlighted. It offers the ultimate self-validation.
I love this quote.
It's, if you only have 40% to give today and you give all 40%, you just gave 100% of what you have to give.
And that just flips the script entirely, doesn't it? If you just gave 100% of your current available energy, calling yourself lazy is just... it's a necessary torture.
Yeah.
Recognizing you are in survival mode is actually the most responsible thing you can do. It forces you to prioritize recovery, not self-criticism.
Okay, let's pivot now into part 2. Let's focus on how we interact with the external world and other people's opinions, starting with reminder 3. This one helps shift perspective, feel less isolated in our struggles. You know who's going through a tough time right now? Everyone. Be kind.
It's so deceptively simple. Its power is in universalizing the struggle. We often feel like we're the only person who is just completely overwhelmed.
Totally.
But this reminder forces you to recognize that everyone, the person who cut you off in traffic, the coworker who gave you the silent treatment, even the person who looks like they have a perfect life, everyone is carrying some unseen burden.
It instantly softens the narrative, doesn't it? You stop feeling like the universe is singling you out when you realize shared hardship is just...
yeah.
It's the default human experience.
And if we connect this back to boundaries, back to reminder 1, compassion allows you to maintain that boundary without it turning into bitterness.
How does that work?
Well, you can be kind and empathetic to someone's unseen struggle, which creates space for them to be disappointed by your no without you dropping into resentment, because you understand their behavior often comes from their own pain.
Okay, now let's tackle the 5th reminder, which is maybe the most immediate pathway to psychological freedom.
It might be.
Take nothing personally.
One of the most famous pieces of advice out there. It's linked directly to the second of the 4 agreements in Don Miguel Ruiz's classic book, The 4 Agreements.
A book that sold, what, over 15 million copies for a reason?
Exactly, because internalizing this habit stops you from obsessing over all that external noise.
And we spend so much energy on that noise, trying to decode silence, justify ourselves to people who aren't even listening, worrying about opinions that just don't matter.
And the mechanism the source material advocates for practicing this is beautifully simple. It's just using the phrase, let them.
Let them?
Let them. When you feel yourself getting sensitive or hurt by a terse email or text tone or someone's perceived coldness, you just mentally cue yourself. Let them think what they want. Let them be in a bad mood. Let them disagree.
So you are actively choosing not to internalize it.
You are, because the truth is that other people's actions, their bad mood, their silence, their need to control everything, are overwhelmingly a projection of their own stress, their own insecurity, their own overwhelm.
So it has nothing to do with your value. It's not a report card on your existence.
Not at all. Their silence is not a criminal sentence. Their anxiety is not a vote on your worth. Learning to use let them frees you up instantly from letting someone else's messy nervous system dictate the quality of your entire day.
Okay, that brings us into part 3, where we shift the focus entirely to internal validation and the necessary process of change. Let's start with reminder 4, which forces us to appreciate where we are. I'm not everything I want to be, but I'm a lot of things I wanted to be 2 years ago. And what a wonderful thing it is to realize that.
This reminder is so crucial because our culture, it just drives us to focus only on the next summit, right? Which leads to that self-invalidating narrative of, I'm not enough yet.
Right, always not enough.
These forces a backward check-in. It shifts the truth to, you're improving.
It's proof that progress is actually happening.
Yeah.
Even if it feels agonizingly slow in the moment. Progress often looks like, well, outgrowing old habits, old environments, outgrowing people, outgrowing older versions of yourself.
And it's about recognizing that the big, impressive goal you're chasing today might have started as just a vague wish, like 24 months ago.
Yeah.
The sources gave that concrete example of a person who had this loose idea of launching a new company in the protein space, pure genius, 2 years prior. It was just a note on a whiteboard. And today, it's a physical reality.
That realization is so powerful because we lose sight of that initial progress while we're bogged down dealing with the current crisis,
Yeah.
a logistics issue or a supply chain problem.
Right.
If you don't give yourself credit for how far you've come, the whole thing can feel pointless.
You have to define progress not just by what you've acquired, but by what you've outgrown.
And that leads us directly to reminder 6, which is, it's a bit of a gut check on that exact process of outgrowing.
It really is.
Becoming the best version of yourself comes with a lot of goodbyes.
This is just the acknowledgement that if you want a genuinely different life, you simply cannot drag the old life around with you.
I love the analogy they used in the sources of dragging a busted suitcase with a wheel that's stuck.
Yeah.
You're expending 80% of your energy just managing the friction of the past instead of actually moving forward. And these goodbyes, they aren't always like dramatic confrontations.
Absolutely not. Goodbyes are multifaceted. They include cutting off relationships that drain you, yes, but more importantly, they are about releasing draining habits, situations, and even old self versions.
So it's like goodbye to the anxiety about being disliked.
Hello to the self-confidence needed to set boundaries. It's goodbye to chronic self-criticism. Hello to internal self-respect.
That frames the goodbye, not as a loss, but as a necessary evolution.
It gives you permission to be ruthless with your time and your energy. It's clearing out the closet to create literal space, mental, emotional, physical, and for what fits the new person you're becoming. And that brings immense relief and clarity.
Okay, finally, let's look at part 4, which deals with the ultimate urgency and meaning. Reminder 7. This is the one that brings everything into sharp, high contrast focus. Keep in mind there's a clock ticking that you can't see, so love whoever loves you and enjoy your life.
Humans have this psychological bias. It's called temporal discounting. In simple terms, it's our tendency to value immediate rewards over future rewards.
And to assume we'll have more time later.
Right, more time, more energy, more motivation later. So we delay the important actions. I'll call my mom later. I'll start that new habit in the new year.
And as the source material notes so clearly, later is not a real day on the calendar. You have to activate now.
To counter that tendency, we can look at the archive wisdom from Dr. Carl Pelmer, the director of the Cornell Legacy Project. His team interviewed thousands of older Americans, people in their 80s, 90s, and 100s, asking them about their biggest life regrets.
So what stands out? When you look at that whole catalog of late life wisdom, what's the pattern?
The regrets are remarkably consistent and very simple. They regret not asking for forgiveness, not saying I love you more frequently, and letting vital relationships just fall apart.
And what do they not regret?
Not buying a bigger house, not working more overtime, not getting that promotion.
Wow. That really puts our daily anxieties into a humbling perspective, doesn't it? The stress we're generating in survival mode, back to reminder 2, is often over things that won't matter at all in 20 years.
Correct. When you truly internalize that ticking clock, your brain activates what's called meaning motivation, the drive to prioritize the actions that align with what is truly important.
It pushes you from assumption.
I'll fix this later, into immediate intention. I need to call that person now. You realize you can waste the next 10 holidays trying to fix your family members, or you can choose to let them be who they are and use your finite energy to love whoever truly loves you back.
It creates this beautiful urgency for forward motion.
Yeah.
As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do,
You have to keep moving forward.
this reminder just ensures you keep moving forward with the people you love in the one life you've got.
And before we wrap up with our final challenge, we should probably mention that the source material also included a free 20-page workbook. It's designed to walk you step by step through 6 questions for getting clear on your goals and creating a plan.
Which is a very practical resource to go along with these mindset shifts. Ultimately, these 7 reminders, from boundaries all the way to the ticking clock, they're powerful weapons against playing small. They work by snapping you out of that anxiety spiral, by validating the reality of your exhaustion and refocusing you on your true capabilities.
And they connect the personal survival state, that's reminder 2, with the external need for compassion from reminder 3, and the internal necessity of change from reminder 6. They sort of build a cumulative mental model for resilience.
So we've covered the need for boundaries, the reality of survival mode, the gift of compassion, the freedom of non-personalization, the joy of progress, the necessity of goodbyes, and the urgency of that ticking clock.
A lot.
Yeah. So now for one final provocative challenge. It synthesizes 3 of these core ideas, and it's designed to immediately shift your priorities toward internal application.
All right. What stands out to you as the final pivot point?
If you accepted right now, in this very moment, that your time, your energy, and your love are truly finite resources, which one of the goodbyes from Reminder 6 would you commit to making today in order to give 100% of your current available energy from Reminder 2 to the people who genuinely love you, from Reminder 7? Chew on that. We'll see you in the next deep dive.